So welcome to Networking for Cloud. Today we're going to be talking about the role that our regional and state networks play in helping provide members, Internet2 members, access to cloud services and cloud infrastructure. Today really focuses on the networking portion of getting to the cloud, not the services that one might obtain once one gets there. But we'll talk about how we provide different connectivity options for folks. In the presentations today, I'll refer to the generic name StateNet, but all of you can think about who the state and regional network is in your area. For instance, if you're from Rhode Island, it's Ocean. If you're from Ohio, it's Ornet. So you'll see in the diagrams, we'll talk about StateNet, but it's whatever the regional network you have that's providing the connectivity. There are some of you who may be on the call, for instance, if someone's on from NOAA or from another federal agency, those folks have their own connection right into Internet2. So the regional network component won't be there for them. So let's get started. There are three ways that Internet2 works with our regional partners to provide connectivity for members and actually for anybody who's downstream from our regional and state networks to gain access to the cloud. The first is the Internet2 Peering Exchange, or I2PX. So this takes advantage of our 3 terabits of peering capacity to all the major providers for access to the cloud. This is usually what you would use if you're doing software as a service. For instance, if you're gaining access to Zoom or Office 365 or applications sitting in the cloud. You'd also use this connectivity if you were using S3 on Amazon, or if you're using a VLAN as your way to get to some of the direct connect solutions that we'll be talking about later. So I2PX is available to all Internet2 members, all downstream members of our state and regional networks, and it is no additional fees. It's part of being part of the Internet2 community, and it's access for anybody that wants that connectivity. The second service that we offer is Internet2 Cloud Connect, I2CC, which enables StateNet members, again, to use Internet2 and the state network to obtain connectivity in a dedicated fashion to the cloud providers, the big 3. So you can connect it up to 5 gigabits. It comes in 1 gig, 2 gig, and 5 gig sizes for direct connect, private layer 2 or 3 access. And this goes to the direct connect solutions offered by Microsoft, which is their Express Route, right? Amazon's Direct Connect, and Google Cloud Platform's Direct Interconnect. Again, up to 5 gig is at no additional fee. And this is when you're looking for an application where you want to really extend your data center into the cloud. So you're extending addresses that you have into the cloud. And you often see this happening with a particular application, or when campuses are starting to move to a real infrastructure as a service model. There are some cloud provider fees that apply, but there's no additional fees for Internet2 members or StateNet members. And the third service we offer is our Internet2 Rapid Private Interconnect, or RPI. And this provides a private 10 gig interconnection at the major peering points, I'll show you where those are in a minute, across the country. And you do have to pay for this. It's a low annual rate that you pay for the 10 gig port. And it's under $10,000 a year. And this leverages your investment in your StateNet. So you can just use the connection you already have to your state and local network, and then connect to Internet2. And then we'll provide connectivity into anybody who's at one of these Equinix facilities. So while you can use it to connect to cloud providers, which you may want to do if you need more than 5 gigs, remember, Internet2 Cloud Connect is limited to 5 gigs. If you want more than that, you can use RPI to get more capacity, or you can use it to connect to any provider that's at the Equinix facilities. For instance, we have a regional network in the Northeast that uses it to connect to a esports gaming exchange. We have another regional again in the Northeast. They use it to connect to a SIP provider, as redundant connection to a SIP provider. Some folks are using it, for instance, to connect to Oracle's Fast Connect. I'll talk a little bit about that in the RPI slides. So these are the 3 different services: the Peer Exchange, the Cloud Connect, and the Rapid Private Interconnect. Let's take a deep dive into each of those to give you a little better understanding of when you would use each one. So let's just take a minute to get ourselves familiar with this diagram. On the left, you see the different community members that might be part of a state network, right? Either government, museums, K-12s, a college campus, libraries, and they connect to their state network. Now, the state network often offers their own regional peering, right? Many of the state networks already maybe connect you to AWS or maybe to Netflix, maybe to Zoom, right? So that kind of connectivity is still in place. And of course, there's also the connectivity out to the broader Internet2 R&E community. That's standard research and education connectivity as part of Internet2. You'll also see over here is I2PX, and that's where we're perhaps augmenting the sample regional peering that you see with other different services that we're making available. So it could be Box, right? It could be a public access to Oracle or Blackboard, Zoom, AWS. So oftentimes we have selected entities we want to peer with that our community has asked us to peer with because they have a lot of relationships with them. Sometimes it happens at the state net level, and sometimes we can augment some of that at I2PX. Again, I2PX is available to you at no additional fees. As a matter of fact, it's very rare. It'd be very rare that you weren't using I2PX today. But a note, we do want to note also that you can use I2PX with a VPN if you're using that to get to the cloud. It's certainly one of the solutions here in cloud connectivity. Now let's take a look at Internet2 Cloud Connect. So this is to take advantage of some of the direct connect services offered by the cloud providers. You'll see the same diagram here, right? We've got the community, the state network with its peering, and I2PX. But now we've added the Internet2 Cloud Connect component. And this is where you can gain access to the different direct services that the big three cloud providers are offering. ExpressRoute from Microsoft, Direct Connect from AWS, and partner Interconnect with Google Cloud. Again, you can make this connectivity happen at anywhere from 1 gig, 2 gig, or 5 gig. You just work with your state net. You contact them and us. We'll work together with the state net to make the virtual connections in place for you at either layer 2 or layer 3, and help put the connectivity together for you as an Internet2 member or a downstream member of any of the state net networks. And that gives you that direct connectivity there. Now, one of the things that we emphasize, and one of the key reasons that we make Cloud Connect so readily available and do not include any additional fees for its use, is that we really follow the philosophy that people should have a lot of diverse paths and diversity into their cloud solutions. So you've heard me talk about how you can gain access to some cloud features through I2PX. You could get to some of them through Cloud Connect. You might have a VPN solution that you're using. We don't feel like we need to be the only solution for you when you're looking to connect to the cloud, but we'd like to be part of the solution for you. That's why we're giving you these 2 and 3 different options and ways that you can get there, and not putting any kind of cost burdens in your way as you try to build a very resilient solution for your cloud connectivity requirements. And this is where Cloud Connect is available nationwide. So we can get to it in Ashburn, Chicago, Dallas, and San Jose. This is, again, on purpose so that you can choose maybe the nearest site where you want to make your connectivity nearest to your campus, but you can also have resiliency and have connectivity to any of the other sites. Again, because you're using the Internet2 backbone and you're using the infrastructure of your state net, there's no difference in cost for you to connect in San Jose or Chicago or Ashburn. So you could really bring in some geographic diversity when you look at your cloud solution. We've got some examples of the connectivity up here, but I noticed that they're not really up to date. So I'm going to invite Matt Sarkowskis from Internet2 to give us a little update on what the capacity is looking like in those different sites these days. Matt?
Thanks, George. I see you did a little edit on the bottom already. So you did note that we now have 100 gig connections to Azure in San Jose. The one in Ashburn is pending, but it's currently being worked on right now. For ExpressRoute, we've got 2 10 gig port pairs, so 40 gig towards Azure in Ashburn. And we also have a connection to their government cloud, so 2 single 10 gig port pair to their gov cloud there. Chicago is still a single port pair, so it's 2 10 gigs. Dallas is also currently a single port pair, 210 gigs. And in San Jose, there are actually two 10 gig port pairs, so 40 gig, in addition to the 100 gig that is also up there. For Amazon, we've got lots in Ashburn. The current, well, let me get the right thing so I can let you know. So in Ashburn, we've got 5 10 gigs on one side. They don't have port pairs, they've got single, but we have diverse hardware in Ashburn. So there's 5 10 gigs to one and 4 10 gigs to the other. So we've got 90 gig in Ashburn in total. Chicago just has 2 10 gigs, but there's more coming up online. Dallas has 2 10 gigs, and San Jose has got 4 10 gigs, 2 to each piece of equipment we've got there. I will note that Amazon has a way to get to government cloud using the commercial cloud. If you've got a single owner, they can have a government cloud account and there's an associated commercial cloud account. So you can actually use these connections to get to government cloud for Amazon. And Google is correct. We have, they also have a sort of a notion of a port pair, although it's not as strong as Microsoft. And we have a single pair currently in each of the 4 cities.
So Matt, you're talking about pairs. Maybe you could take a minute to explain to folks the redundancy that's built into each of the providers and how we do that in each city.
Sure. So we have 2 pieces of equipment as part of actually contractually with these providers. We actually have 2 separate pieces of equipment that have different routes out to the rest of the Internet2 network in each of the 4 cities. And we have connectivity to the providers to each of those. So one level of resiliency is having a connection on each of the routers that we have in each peering point. Microsoft enforces this, it requires it. It always operates on port pairs. Actually, you don't have to take advantage of both, but you get them. Google basically really encourages it. That's the default way. If you ask for connectivity, it says, let me give you a pair. And Amazon didn't, now actually really encourages it. There is no sort of notion of pair, but they will actually send email to you if you have a single direct connect and not a dual. So that's one way to provide connectivity or provide resiliency. And the second way is to have connections in multiple cities. So resources are available from any of these connection points. So if you have something in the eastern region, you can still connect to the west and get there. Sometimes there are pricing differences, so that's something to watch out for, but you can get there and use it for resiliency purposes. So all the providers emphasize that if you want to have the maximum resiliency, if the way you want to have this kind of direct connect capability and have maximum resiliency, you should go for at least 2 cities. And as you also mentioned, George, earlier, using a virtual private network, a VPN connection into your private cloud resources is also a way to provide additional resiliency.
Well, so when someone is looking to get an Internet2 Cloud Connect port and they get one in Ashburn, we provide them with two ways in. That single port is delivered on 2 different routers for them, correct?
I'm sorry, say it again. Which
by default, we make sure that you have redundancy in each city.
So that's only true for ExpressRoute. It's not true for the other services by default. It depends on what you ask for. However, there are multiple paths in. So for any given port, it's not, the sort of single point of failure would be that port in that particular router, but there are multiple paths in. So that will not be a single point of failure.
Thank you.
And it looks like we actually, let me see, we've got a hand raised, George. Do you want to?
I can't see that.
Phyllis, it looks like, wants to talk. I will allow you to come up and ask a question. If you have one.
Matt, I'm good. I'm
okay.
Good. Okay, thank you though.
Yep.
We do have a question from Simon Fairley. He said, and are those routers in separate physical locations for the express route option or side by side in the same building?
For ExpressRoute, they're in the same location, and it's true for Google too. Google sometimes has different zones, or no, it has different zones, but it sometimes actually has different metros, I guess, within a particular POP. So our equipment is all in one physical building and location. So if you want diversity for cities, that we don't provide that directly, you have to go to one of the other POPs.
You'd have to do multiple.
That makes sense.
Right.
Yeah.
But they are separate power feeds, separate racks, you know, and separate routing equipment. But great question.
Although, you know, it is the case that one POP can go down, and we've actually seen that in recent memory, but it's very, very, very rare.
Okay. Moving on. So we offer Cloud Connect in two flavors. We offer it at layer 2. This is a very straightforward, you know, VLAN approach where the campus router actually peers with the cloud provider's router, and the path through the regional network, the state net, and through Internet2 is fairly transparent and straightforward. And we're going to come back and dig into layer 2 and layer 3 a little bit more with Matt's expertise. But layer 2 is available to you if this is what you'd like to put forward. It's very straightforward. It's also often what people use when they're certain that they're going to be dealing with, you know, one particular cloud provider. We also offer a layer 3 option, which actually takes advantage of a layer 3 VPN. What's a little different in this diagram is you'll see the campus router, once again, passes through the regional network, but peers with an Internet2 router. That's actually a VRF that we've created for the campus. And that VRF will then peer with any of the cloud providers you want us to peer with. So you can peer with AWS and or Microsoft and or Google. So you could have one VRF that was talking to the 3 providers. So layer 3 is often chosen as an option when people know they're going to be working with multiple cloud providers, or it's just a model that they're more familiar with and comfortable with and working with. We have no preference over which one you choose. I'm happy to work with you on deciding which one you think might work. You know, while we do have the 3 cloud providers here, you could also add other collaborators, you know, into that VRF. So if you had another university you were dealing with, or a government agency or someone you were dealing with, you know, you could include them as part of that VRF and part of your virtual routing function as well. Again, we'll come back to more about layer 2 and layer 3 if folks have questions on that. And the third service is our rapid private interconnect service. So this service is designed to allow you to reach major co-location facilities, those same facilities we talked about before, right? And be able to connect to anybody you want to connect to that happens to be co-located at the Equinix facility. Again, we can do this at layer 2 or layer 3. You see the campus network going to the regional network and Internet2. And then at the Internet2 side, we're just going to put a cross connect into whichever provider you want us to. So it could be, as I said, it could be an esports exchange. It could be a normal internet exchange. Could be any cloud provider. Could be a SIP service provider. Whatever you want. There is a fee for this, and we work with your regional network to establish we have the contracts. So if you're a campus, you'll be procuring this through your regional network. And connected to who connects to the Internet2 network. It's very affordable. I won't quote a price because it's a little bit different depending on which state you're working in, but it's very affordable. It's significantly less than $1,000 a month for a 10 gig port and connectivity to those facilities. So if you're thinking about putting equipment in a Equinix type facility or in a colo, take a look at this model because you really can save a lot of money by not having to put equipment and maintenance out there by just leveraging what your state net has available to you and what Internet2 has available to you. We currently offer connectivity to Oracle in this fashion. If you wanted to connect to Oracle Fast Connect, and we have a few members that are doing that. We are in discussions with Oracle now to see if we can find a solution that would allow us to move Oracle into the Cloud Connect solution, which would allow people to then be able to get to Oracle Fast Connect at the 1, 2, and 5 gig amounts at no additional fee, rather than having to, excuse me, procure an RPI port. happy to answer any questions folks have about that as we go back forward. And again, RPI is available in those same 4 cities, Chicago, Ashburn, Dallas, and San Jose. I think you may know that we're doing a significant upgrade to our network that will be done toward the end of this year. At that time, we may have the ability to open up a few more sites, 2 or 3 more sites around the country where we'll be offering both Cloud Connect and RPI access for members. So I just wanted to see if there's any questions here. And if not, we will we'll jump back up and go into the layer 2 and layer 3 configurations and see if folks have questions there. So do we have any questions at this point about the 3 services?
We do have some questions, George. The first one from Brad Fleming: can RPI ports be added to the level 3 CC design model?
The layer 3.
Yeah, sorry, layer 3.
Can RPI ports be added to the
layer 3 CC design model? And maybe Brad is asking, do you think he's asking about using Cloud Connect? Where is he?
I'd say the answer is likely yes. An issue might be trying to well, no, it probably would work. I mean, an issue would just be that you have to do the configuration. It would look like a connector port, so you'd have to do the configuration similar to you do for a connector side port.
So I allowed Brad to talk, and so if you want to clarify your question, Brad.
Yeah, sure. So if we had a campus, let's say with a layer 3 Cloud Connect environment, and say they had some connections to Azure, to all the big 3, right? And they wanted to add an additional connection to Oracle, for example, but they wanted that Oracle instance to be able to talk to maybe Active Directory for authentication, and they prefer that not to have to run through the main campus, either for redundancy or whatever, right? Can that RPI port that hits into Oracle be integrated into the layer 3 Cloud Connect environment? And is that, like, is it possible, number one? And then how nasty is it? Have you guys had to cross that bridge yet? That's basically what I'm getting at.
I think we're talking about the other collaborators in this diagram, right?
Yeah, or other cloud services.
Yeah.
Or it could be if you wanted to get to like AWS at greater than 5 gig.
Right. So you hit on a really good point there, Brad. So we have on the drawing board, right, plans for offering Cloud Connect at higher than 5 gig. And with the 2 100 gig Azure ports that we're just bringing up, that's probably the first place where we'll start to offer that. Once you get over 5 gig, you'll still have sort of the RPI fees, associated with it, but we'll still keep the 5 gig and under at no additional cost, and then roll the RPI fees in to over 5 gig. But we're thinking that we might be able to start to blend that kind of capability into Cloud Connect at higher than 5 once we have bigger than 10 gig ports. Because the problem with the 10 gig ports is 2 people come on at 5 and it's full, right? So we think once we get to the 100 gig and we've got the cross connects already in place, that we can start to build that kind of capability and more programmability into Cloud Connect, and what we're calling Cloud Connect Plus at this point. Did that answer your question?
So let me follow up for a second, George. So I think the answer is, I believe it's doable. I don't think we've done it with anyone yet.
Right.
So I think you could add in an RPI port. The difference is that you'd have to do the configuration on both sides. So there's no automated call outs to AWS or Azure or whomever to do the config. You'd have to configure it on the Azure side and then configure it on our side as well, so that you can get the pairing up.
Okay. Yep, that works for me. Thanks.
Okay. We'd be happy to work with you, Brad, if that pops up for you.
So a related question, but I'm jumping down a little bit. So can you connect from the RPI to Cloud Connect layer 3 to add Oracle?
So I think that is what was just sort of the same kind of question that Brad asked. So I think you can do that if you want to. but it's you have to do the you'd have to do the configuration on the Oracle side, and the configuration on our side. There isn't any automated direct provisioning of the cloud service.
Okay, just wanted to make sure that we were dealing with the Oracle part. So great, thanks. How difficult is it to convert an Azure setup that uses the commodity connectivity today to use Cloud Connect? Also, is there a cookbook or white paper outlining that process?
So I'm going to assume that we're using, by commodity connectivity, we're doing something with a VPN that is getting to some resource inside. And I think it's fairly easy to add an ExpressRoute connection to either supplement or replace that VPN connection. I don't know that there is a cookbook. We certainly have some folks on staff that have some experience, but it might be useful to reach out to there's also some cloud community resources, and it might be useful to reach out there for someone that has knows all the ins and outs of the Azure side about how to do that.
Okay.
We'd be happy to work somebody through that too. Certainly work you through the configuring it on the Cloud Connect side. We do have some videos. We'll have a link at the end of the presentation, but we do have some videos about how our part of that works. But we do know several members that are doing it, that are doing both the Cloud Connect and VPN solution. So it does work, and maybe we can help you find somebody to help you do that.
Yep.
Okay. And then layer 2 and layer 3 are mentioned. What about layer 1 connectivity with RPI?
No, we don't do layer 1 with RPI.
You could do it though, right? I mean, we could certainly get a quote for what a layer 1 connectivity would be between 2 points, and then you could use that to connect to a cloud service. I think there are some folks that have done that in the past that I can think of.
Well, we do,
but it's not an RPI service.
Right. It's not listed in the RPI service, but if you had that requirement, we could work with you.
Mm-hmm.
And George, a question about the current timeline for getting Oracle into Cloud Connect.
Well, I did say we're talking to Oracle, so let's start with that. We've been talking with them for several months now, but I think we're talking about looking at contracts and there's a real interest. We've got a really engaged team from Oracle. I'd say by the end of the year. Also, if you're doing anything along the way here, if you want to try an RPI and then Cloud Connect becomes available, we'll work with you on any kind of contractual agreement that you have to switch from one to the other. The only hard cost is we have to do a 1-year agreement for the cross connects. And so that's the only thing we can't really wiggle out of. But if you wanted to if you needed to do RPI with Oracle now, and 6 months from now, we offered it in Cloud Connect, we would convert you. And we'd have to work out something for the remaining months of a $300 cross connect per month.
Any other questions now, or I can
We
I'll do a little bit more time.
We don't have any more in the Q&A right at this minute.
Okay. So one thing I'd also want to mention, sort of you going up, 10. I don't know if there's pricing, but I think you can get 100 gig from Azure if you really needed it as well for RPI. I don't think we've got that kind of pricing yet, right, George?
Well, we need the NGI year in place.
Yeah, that's true. We're not quite there yet.
By the end of the year, when the NGI platform is in place, we will have sufficient 100 gig ports available. So yes, there will definitely be an upgrade to the RPI service, where folks will be able to obtain 100 gig if they ever desire for that, which might be good for regional networks who want to share that among multiple members. We are pushing hard on all of the cloud providers to allow us to get to 100 gig. Microsoft was the first to respond. We are hoping to get another bite at the apple with Amazon in September or October timeframe to see if they'll grant us 100 gig ports then.
Okay. And then the other thing is that you did mention 1, 2, and 5 gig for Cloud Connect. You can go the other way too. if you're doing some testing, it's easy to get a 50 meg service as opposed to 1, 2, or 10 gig.
Right.
So let's see, not seeing any other questions right now. Layer 2 connections. So layer 2 connections, for all these cloud providers, you're actually doing a BGP peering with them. And here it shows between campus and the cloud. This shows 2 in parallel. And that's what you get with Azure. And it's what you can do with AWS or Google. You can also take, depending on what your application is for resiliency, rather than having 2 that run in parallel, you could have one that runs to, say, AWS in Ashburn and another that runs to AWS in Dallas, which both actually directly connect to AWS's US East 1 region. And you could have some resiliency that way if you, depending on what you require for your application, and if taking one of those down would be fine. But yeah, the basic thing here is that there's a path provided from the regional network, and then Internet2 will provision a path and also do the cloud provider provisioning on the right-hand side. But the campus peers directly with the cloud provider. Get up, next one to layer 3.
Any questions on the layer 2?
That's true. Any other questions first? I guess one other thing is that here, the more cloud providers and connections you have, the more connections you have coming back to campus. So that's one of the motivations for some folks to use the layer 3 option. So here's the layer 3 option where you're peering directly with an Internet2 device locally, and you can do that resiliently through 2 different connections. I know people that do have their regional that has, they have 2 connections to their regional, and the regional has 2 connections to us, and they have 2 different peerings on each of those connections. If you didn't require the resiliency, you can also just have one going back to campus this way. And you can connect up with the 3 major providers and other collaborators, either through RPI to hit other things, or even you could connect in other schools. If there was something that was a school specific thing where you were both using some cloud resources, you could imagine that too. The one thing that's hard to do this way, that you could do with the layer 2, is the cloud providers, at least Amazon and Azure, Microsoft, have some sort of public address peering that they will do. With the layer 2, it can be bilateral between you and the cloud provider, and Internet2 isn't in the way. With this option, the problem is that they can't have, well, first of all, you have to verify your ASN and your IP addresses that you're going to advertise. And then the second thing, or third, is that you can't have any private addresses that go out over the connection to the cloud providers. So this is not a good way if a public peering is a requirement. And as we mentioned early on, I2PX is generally the best way to do this for our schools. There's sort of no reason, or there are a few reasons why you'd want to have a connection to the services that have public addresses within a provider use ExpressRoute or Direct Connect or Google Cloud Platform Partner Interconnect.
Again, so that's why this model typically works when you're moving something from your data center, for instance, that's used on campus to the cloud.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, data center extensions are things where, like was mentioned, if you need to have Active Directory that might go to multiple providers, something like that.
Matt, do you want to take a minute to talk a little bit about the portal and the OASIS portal and some of the capabilities we have there?
Sure. So how you do the configuration on the Internet2 side is with the Cloud Connect portal. It is geared towards, well, no, what happens is there are things, yeah. The concept of the portal is that there are work groups, and the work groups are sort of common. It could be a virtual organization, it could be a school, it could be something. That's how we do access control. And ports belong to work groups, and then you can allow for VLANs to be accessible to other work groups. So for the schools here, the work group that owns the ports that touch Internet2, sort of to the left, and I don't know, I probably can't, I sort of want to point, but so on the, at the 9 o'clock side here on the Internet2 L3 VPN, those ports are generally owned by the regional. And what some regionals have done is that they do the configuration for you, or sometimes they have us create a new work group for a particular school and then delegate VLANs on those ports to that school that they can do connections. And then what you do inside the portal is you say, oh, okay, I want to create either a layer 2 connection or a layer 3 VPN. And given that, you can say which points, and it doesn't have to be cloud providers, but for cloud providers, you can select and say, okay, I want to go to Azure in Ashburn, and well, and then make either an L3 VPN that includes it, and you can add additional endpoints. So you can add the AWS or the Google endpoints here to that L3 VPN. And that will allow you to configure towards the cloud provider. Now, each cloud provider is slightly different. With AWS, you initiate it in the cloud portal and you say, hey, I want a 1 gig connection to Ashburn on this port, and then it shows up in your AWS console and it asks you if you want to accept it. For Azure and Google, you actually initiate it inside the Azure portal or the Google portal, and then you get a service key or an API key that you hand to us, and then we can complete the connection. And with Azure, it picks the ports and it you specify the capacity inside the Azure portal. For Google, the provider picks the ports and you select the capacity in the provider portal, not in the Google portal. So they're all three of them are slightly different, but it allows you to bring up one of these fairly quickly to the provider, like in matter of minutes usually, and the time that the longest lead time is not what Internet2 is doing to configure things on our routers to make it happen, but the time for the cloud service provider to actually set their end up. So I don't know if that's the kind of thing that you were asking, or if there are other questions about the portal, I'm happy to try to answer them as well.
So an interesting thing about the portal is, this was a software capability that Internet2 has worked with Indiana University on developing for our OESS. So it's been around for a while, and it's how different virtual work groups have been creating VLANs on the network, with the groups that Matt discussed earlier. So it's really a model that's been around for a while, and we adapted it to fit with the cloud providers, and through a lot of hard work by Matt and AJ Raguso and other members of the team. They've really kind of figured out the solutions for each of the providers, so you don't have to go out and figure out each of those pieces. They've got the key components in there for you. Mm-hmm. And when we give you the resource link at the end of this presentation, you can go in there and see some videos, example videos of how the Cloud Connect portal works.
Yeah. Exactly. And I guess one more thing for this particular page, just as a keep in mind, it says L3 VPN. What it really is a virtual route instance on all our equipment. So there actually is no encryption there. So if encryption is a requirement, you have to do that outside the portal currently yourself.
Any questions for Matt on the technical side of layer 2 and layer 3? And one might choose that?
While people are thinking, I guess I'll throw out one more thing. I know we've been asked about MACsec, so it's Ethernet MAC security. And it's not currently offered on any of the shared services provided by the providers, so it's not in Cloud Connect.
Okay, so just as a refresher, we just want to go back to what we've talked about today. right? We've talked about getting to the cloud, networking for cloud, and the capabilities that are available to you through your state and regional network, and where you can leverage the investment you already have with your state and regional network and Internet2 to gain access to the cloud. Again, our motto is we don't have to be your only cloud solution, but we'd like to be part of your cloud solution. We have some universities who have, we had a large university that had their own dedicated connectivity to Ashburn for AWS. They had tertiary backup. Well, they dropped their tertiary backup and used Cloud Connect, and then also decided to use Cloud Connect for the other cloud providers, Azure and Google, where they were not going to be all in. They were going to be used as heavily. You know, we've had entities who've used it in conjunction with a VPN solution, where they have the VPN solution in place and use Cloud Connect as a backup. We certainly have universities or members that have used it to make sure they had geographic diversity. We have some federal agencies, for instance, that make sure they're in Dallas and they're in Ashburn. So there's enough pieces here, we think, to help solve a lot of your resiliency problems. And hopefully we can provide you some redundancy capability. So feel free to ask us questions and post things to us. And we're very happy to work with members of the community to come up with solutions that meet their needs. So once again, these are the three pieces: the Internet2 peer exchange. That's the peering capability that we have, the 3 terabits. That's what you use in software as a service, Zoom or Office 365, or you're trying to get to these Cloud Connect services perhaps through a VPN. So that could be an additional solution to your connecting over the commodity or Cloud Connect. Cloud Connect, again, allows you access to the big 3 cloud providers. Hopefully we'll be saying 4 by the end of the year, if we can add Oracle. And that gives you up to 5 gigabits of direct connect at private layer 2 or 3. And there's no additional fee from Internet2 or the regional to enter that. This is a great way to get started if you're starting your journey on getting connected to the cloud. You know, bring up a 500 meg, as Matt was saying, or a 1 gig connection and see what you need. We encourage people to always start smaller than what you think you need, because our experience has been that people do not need as much capacity as they initially think. It's easy to grow up. It's harder to go down. You can easily add capacity to existing circuit, but when you want to go down, you often have to, delete, get rid of the circuit and build a whole new circuit to start. So start small, build up. Again, it's a great way to get started if you're just entering this world without any really significant fees to do so. And then Rapid Private Interconnect is our flexible 10 gig solution at a very affordable price, but it does allow you to connect to whoever you want at those major co-location facilities. You don't have to go out and get equipment and power and do contracts with the colo providers. You simply contract with us, and we'll put the cross connect in, and you leverage that capacity you have from your campus all the way to these Equinix facilities in these 4 major cities. It's a really great way to leverage the investment you've already made. You can connect to anybody that's there, including the big 3 cloud providers and Oracle, if either 5 gigs, if the 5 gig solution isn't enough for you, or it's a cloud provider that's not in Cloud Connect today. So we want to thank you for your time today. We really appreciate it. If you have any other questions, we have some time. We'll wait here a little bit. But if you have any other questions, you can always drop us a line at cloudconnectrequest@internet2.edu. We have a very straightforward process. If you're interested in bringing a port up, if you send us an email, we'll point you to where, we'll ask you a few questions. We'll point you to a web form that you can complete. And then we'll get in touch with you and your regional provider. And we'll start talking about how we'll put the connection together for you. It's very, very quick and fairly straightforward. So we encourage you to contact us and see how we can help you. You can also visit the link below on the Networking for Cloud. There's a lot of material there. We've got a shortened version of this presentation, a succinct 10-minute video that you can share with your colleagues, get a sense of what the services are. There's also some tutorials there. There's some other information about the portal. And so it's a great resource for information about Networking for Cloud through Internet2. Let's see if there's any other questions, Linda.
There aren't any in the question and answer box, but question in chat maybe. So Greg Ebner, I2 RPI, would it be possible to have 40 gigs to Hurricane Electric in San Jose?
Not today. And that goes back to our RPI, our NGI question. As we build out our next generation infrastructure and we have more 100 gig ports available, we'll be able to offer higher than 10 gig capacity. But today we don't offer any ports higher than 10 gig.
Although they could get 4 10 gigs. And I don't know if we are going to offer 40 gig anyway. It's probably going to be 10 or 100.
I guess
at least as a standard offering.
We could talk about it if you wanted to do 4 10 gigs.
Yeah.
You could drop us a line and we'd be happy to talk to you about that, explore that with you. As long as Hurricane Electric is in the Equinix facility. That's the key. Great question. Well, we'll hang around here for a little bit. If folks have any other questions, we'll be here at the top of the hour. I was remiss in not introducing Linda Roos, the Senior Director for Regional Networks here. And Linda's the person that takes care of things for you when you do send that email to Cloud Connect request. She wrangles all the pieces and puts them all together and does a fantastic job at it. So you'll be in good hands if you have any questions or any requests.
Thank you. And I certainly work closely with Matt and also with Brian Cashman, who's here in the audience today.
So with that, we'll end the webinar, but we will hang on here for till the top of the hour. If you have any particular questions or anything, feel free to stick around and we'll be happy to talk with you. Thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it. We hope you found this informative and we hope we can help be a part of your cloud connectivity solutions going forward. Thank you.